Hello, welcome virtually to the Buddhist Temple of San Diego. Please join me in Gasho, or with palms together. On the Shin Buddhist path, one is made to recognize self-delusion, having been once illuminated by the light of boundless compassion. This recognition continues throughout one's lifetime, but we are also shown that delusions are never permanent, for the light of compassion ultimately begins the process of transformation, so that delusions become transmuted into sources of wisdom, making a person more true, real, and sincere. Namo Maribeth, Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Thank you for joining us on this last Sunday in February, regardless of whenever you happen to be listening to this talk. It might be nearly 4 weeks since we celebrated Groundhog Day on February 2nd, but for some of us, it probably seems like Groundhog Day all over again. In fact, for some of us, it might feel like this is still February or March something of the year 2020, as each day since COVID-19 started rampaging through our country, states, and communities feels much like every day that preceded it. An endless blur of days where we attend Zoom meetings, wear sweatpants all day, order food from Grubhub, wash our hands, Zoom to school, mask up before leaving home, cancel planned trips, pick up groceries curbside, wear gym shorts to work, wash our hands, Netflix and chill, cancel bingo night, walk the dog, cut your own hair, order food from Uber Eats, wash your hands, mask up again, struggle with fifth graders math, cancel holiday visits, walk the cat, Zoom to work, wash our hands, watch a CBE Dharma video, wear fuzzy bunny slippers, struggle with middle schoolers algebra, order food from DoorDash, Zoom with family, wash our hands, binge watch Hulu, double mask this time, pick up the Target run curbside, struggle with high schoolers calculus, wear pajamas until noon, wash our hands, cancel another bingo night, order food from Postmates, cut your kids' hair, pick up Petco order curbside, walk the hamster, wash our hands, consider triple masking, Zoom to a Sunday temple service. Well, I think you know where this is going. When I was in the Navy, we experienced Groundhog Day a lot when we were on board ships. Surrounded by ocean and gray bulkheads, that's nautical lingo for the metal ship walls, it was hard to distinguish one day from another. Everything looked and felt the same. And if you didn't check the calendar, you might not have any idea what day of the week it really was, let alone what the date was, and occasionally what time of day it was. You know, the first official Groundhog Day celebration took place on February 2nd, 1887 in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. That's a little town about 80 miles northeast of Pittsburgh. Groundhog Day was the brainchild of a local newspaper editor named Clymer Freyas. He sold a group of businessmen and groundhog hunters who were known collectively as the Punxsutawney Groundhog Club on this idea. The men trekked to a site called Gobbler's Knob, where the inaugural groundhog became the bearer of bad news of an extended winter when he saw a shadow. More recently, these yearly festivities in Punxsutawney are now presided over by a band of local dignitaries known as the Inner Circle. Its members wear top hats and tuxes and conduct the official proceedings in the Pennsylvania Dutch dialect, but they supposedly speak to the groundhog in groundhogese. Every February 2nd, since that first celebration, the crowds have grown, and now tens of thousands of spectators attend Groundhog Day events in Punxsutawney, a borough that's home to only a few 6,000 people. This year, due to COVID, a masked up and socially distanced ceremony took place without the crowds gathered. Punxsutawney Phil, Pennsylvania's most famous groundhog, emerged from his burrow on a snowy Tuesday morning and saw his shadow. Phil thereby declared that there would be 6 more weeks of winter weather. Of course, the famous furry marmot, dubbed the seer of seers by his fans, is not the most accurate forecaster. Since 1887, Phil's winter prognostication has only been correct 39% of the time. Maybe Phil should go back to weather forecaster school. Thanks to the 1993 movie of the same name, the term Groundhog Day has become a part of our lexicon. The phrase refers to the repetition of events or reliving of days that seem to be unchanging and unending. Well, if you're not familiar with the film or need a refresher of the plot, I'll get you up to speed on the movie and the phenomena of Groundhog Day. Bill Murray plays Phil Connors, a self-centered, egotistical Pittsburgh TV weather forecaster who is sent to the small town of Punxsutawney to cover the annual Groundhog Day events. Phil Connors is the kind of guy who severely overestimates his own importance. Phil refers to himself as the talent, meaning that he's got greater significance than his producer Rita, played by Andy McDowell, or the cameraman Larry, played by Chris Elliott. Phil even considers himself to be a real celebrity and clearly looks down on just about everybody else. In fact, he's sure that he's destined for greater things, like being a nationally known weather forecaster on one of those big TV networks, sort of like Al Roker on NBC's Today Show. Well, weatherman Phil goes on this loathsome, beneath him assignment to the puny town of Punxsutawney, PA, with producer Rita and cameraman Larry. And while everyone else is enjoying the celebration of Groundhog Day and are focused on the famous woodchuck Punxsutawney Phil, and whether or not Phil sees his shadow, Phil, the weather forecaster's goal is to do the broadcast and to get out of the normally sleepy little town that's filled with hicks as soon as he can. But after the News Channel 9 team is trapped in Punxsutawney by road closures, roads that are closed due to a blizzard that Phil failed to accurately forecast, Phil Connors finds himself repeating the same day over and over again. Each morning at 6 a.m., the clock radio alarm goes off, and Phil hears Sonny and Cher singing, "I Got You, Babe." It's Groundhog Day once more. Initially, Phil doesn't catch on to the fact that the day is repeating itself. First, he thinks that the radio DJs are playing a recording of the previous morning. Then he thinks it's all deja vu. Then he thinks he's just going crazy. Day after day, the weatherman wakes up to find that he's reliving February 2nd. The day plays out exactly as it did before, with no one else aware of the time loop and only Phil cognizant of the repeated events. Phil literally gets his head examined and tries to figure out what's wrong with his brain. Why is he stuck in one place where everything is the same day after day and nothing he does seems to matter? After several cycles of Groundhog Day, Phil philosophizes after a night of drinking with a couple of locals. What if there's no tomorrow? Does that mean there are no consequences? Does that mean there's no next day hangovers? What if each morning the world just resets itself, regardless of what happened? After many more days of the repetition, Phil decides to take advantage of this weird situation and does some crazy things. He indulges every whim and pretty much goes nuts, trying anything that comes to mind. He decides to drive recklessly and plays chicken with a train. And he gets himself thrown in jail that night for the effort. But at 6 a.m., he wakes up at the bed and breakfast with Sonny and Cher singing on the radio again. He steals a big bag of cash from an armored car. He seduces a woman by tricking her into thinking they went to high school together. He kidnaps the town's beloved groundhog, and he acts rude and obnoxious to just about everybody. Maybe you even know someone who behaves like Phil. But at 6 a.m., Phil wakes up at the bed and breakfast with Sonny and Cher singing on the radio once again. He's trapped in what he sees as a type of hell, but to everybody else, it's simply Punxsutawney on Groundhog Day. Phil tries to commit suicide several times by driving off a cliff into a gravel pit and hitting the bottom in a fiery crash, then by electrocuting himself in the bathtub with the B&B's toaster, then by stepping in front of a speeding truck, and finally by taking a swan dive off of a 3-story building. But no matter what he does each February 2nd, at 6 a.m., Phil wakes up at the bed and breakfast with Sonny and Cher singing on the radio again. It's always February 2nd, and Phil thinks there's nothing he can do about it. Bored with this pattern of repetition, Phil goes through the motions of getting to know his producer, Rita, February 2nd after February 2nd, finding out what she likes one time just to impress her with it the next time through. But his motives are purely selfish. He does it all with the goal of getting her in bed. At one point, Rita tells Phil that she could never love someone like him because he'll never be in love with anybody but himself. Whoa. This is the first time anyone has shined a light directly on Phil's self-centered, fake celebrity life. That comment causes Phil to finally re-examine his life, his motives, and his priorities. Phil finally understands that his repetition of Groundhog Day is not about getting away with things like breaking the law or indulging in personal pleasures, but instead it's about examining who he really is. Who is the true and authentic Phil Connors? Not indulging the self-delusions, feeding his bloated, egotistical self, engaging in self-promoting and self-aggrandizing, maintaining a superficial existence, trudging through phony motions day after day, or falsely enhancing his own importance, power, and reputation. Groundhog Day is repeating itself so many times so that Phil can come to know his true self, become his true self, and live his true life. In Shin Buddhism, the light of the Dharma can help us to see our authentic selves. Are the sweatshirt and shorts the real me, or is the fuho and wagesa the real me? When illuminated by Amita's light, do I see my selfishness, animosity, and foolish ways as they really are and own up to them? Or do I try to hide in my cocoon of self-centeredness and indulge those illusions and delusions, hoping that the Dharma's illumination will go away and leave me to my false and phony world? Jodo Shinshu is a teaching of opening our eyes to see things just as they are, opening our eyes to who we truly are, opening our eyes to the value of life, whether it's my life, your life, Phil the Weatherman's life, Phil the Groundhog's life, the lives of those who support us, as in producer Rita's life or camera operator Larry's life, or the lives of the cast of characters who seem to be in the background, the lives of all the Groundhog Day revelers, and the lives of the citizens of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Like Phil Connors, many of us are reliving Groundhog Day over and over again, repeating our superficial lives filled with false expectations and phony facades. By listening to the Dharma, by taking the teachings to heart, Jodo Shinshu is a teaching of opening our eyes to see things just as they are, opening our eyes to who we truly are, opening our eyes to the value of life, whether it's my life, your life, fill the weatherman's life, fill the groundhog's life, the lives of those who support us, as in producer Rita's life or camera operator Larry's life, or the lives of the cast of characters who seem to be in the background, like the lives of all the Groundhog Day revelers and the lives of all the citizens of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Like Phil Connors, many of us are reliving Groundhog Day over and over again, repeating our superficial lives filled with false expectations and phony facades. By listening to the Dharma, by taking the teachings to heart, Shin Buddhism guides us to know our true or authentic selves, become our true or authentic selves, and live our true or authentic lives. So please join me once again in Gasho, or with palms together. Awakened by Amita's light of wisdom to our self-centeredness, we realize the foolishness of our internal narratives of self-aggrandizement. We find that the self is a rather silly thing, puffed up far beyond its actual capacities. As we see just how deluded we really are, we are simultaneously awakened to Amita's compassionate embrace. No matter how foolish we may be, other power constantly provides us with what we need to live and discover true reality in each moment. Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda, 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 Namanda.